You Homo sapiens and your guns.
But aren't you a Homo sapiens, Eric? You couldn't really be something else, could you? The mutants of Marvel lore are humans that have a mutation called the X gene. It gives them superhuman abilities and can even affect their physiology. In the Marvel multiverse, they have been classified as a sister species to Homo sapiens called Homo superior, Homo mutantis, and Homo mutandis, and even the subspecies Homo sapiens superior. But does this make any sense? Could the mutants really be classified as a species or subspecies of human all their own? Hi, I'm Ken Kwame, and in case you don't know, I'm a nerd. Even though X-Men was never meant to make real biological sense, let's have some fun and see if we can answer this question. First, I have to talk about the concept of species. In case you don't know, there is not a single definition of species. Different fields of biology actually use different species concepts. The one that comes to my mind most readily is the biological species concept, in which a species is one in which its members can successfully breed to make viable offspring that can then go on to reproduce. But not all organisms reproduce sexually. There are bacteria, for example, and some other species that exclusively reproduce asexually. And what about extinct organisms? We can't know which of them could successfully interbreed, especially if they have been gone for so long that we have no DNA to sequence. All in all, there are around 26 species concepts, but I won't look at all of them in this video. I'll just look at my favorites and see if I can get mutants to fit into any one of them. Let's get into it. We'll start with the biological species concept. As stated before, this concept is defined by the ability to reproduce, but it also refers to being reproductively isolated from other organisms. What this means is that the organisms can't interbreed with other species, or if they can, they produce infertile hybrids. Think mules and ligers. Mutants can and do have children with humans. For example, T'Challa and Aurora have children on alternate Earths. But I've been having problems finding examples of human mutant hybrid children who themselves have children. If anyone knows any, please tell me in the comments. It seems that humans and mutants are capable of reproducing together though. So it seems that mutants wouldn't count as a species based on the biological species concept. What about the morphological species concept though? This one is what paleologists use to determine the species of long extinct organisms, since they can't look at DNA or reproductive habits. They compare and contrast bone structure, etc., and try to group organisms together. This one is a definite no. Some mutants have claws, some mutants have tails, some mutants have gills, some basically look like humans. So there's no single or even group of morphological traits that we can use to group mutants together. In other words, mutants are not a morphologically distinct species. And then there's the lineage species concept. As the name suggests, this groups species based on their descent from a distinct branch on the tree of life. This applies to species like the New Mexico whiptail lizards, an all-female species that produces completely asexually. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to mutants either. Not all mutants are related. Mutants are often descended from humans and can even have mutant children themselves, so they are not a distinct lineage, not separate from humans. What about a subspecies though? This one is interesting. A subspecies in biology is typically a group of individuals that are a member of a larger species that is reproductively isolated but capable of interbreeding with the wider species. They would have morphological differences and or genetic differences that set them apart from other members of the species. For subspecies, biologists add another little name at the end of the species name. The African leopard is one example of this. It is Panthera pardus pardus, a subspecies of Panthera pardus. The problem with this though is that a subspecies usually develops because the species is geographically isolated. This does not apply to mutants. They pop up everywhere all over the world and even reproduce with humans, so I don't think they would count as their own subspecies. So how can we classify mutants? Honestly, I think we would have to leave the realm of biology and enter sociology. I think mutants would count as a race. Even though we humans love to categorize things into groups, the world, the universe doesn't really fit into neat categories. Race is a social and, dare I say, colonial construct. As anthropologist Nina Jablonski once said, it is understood by most as a mixture of physical, behavioral, and cultural attributes. While many of us assume race is rooted in biology, it is not. For example, Africa is the most genetically diverse continent in the world, and yet indigenous Africans are basically all considered black. Other races that exist in the world only have a fraction of the genetic diversity that exists on the continent, and yet, based on our ideas of how to group people, they make up many, many races, while Africans are often considered one. I think this is the best way to think about mutants. They are not a species or a subspecies, but merely humans that all possess diverse traits that humanity has decided to classify as one single group. And funny enough, I think that is the message of Marvel's mutants. As diverse as they are, they share experiences and sometimes a culture, some of which have been imposed upon them by the hegemony. Scott and Alexander Summers' parents are humans and yet produce mutant children. Did they have the X gene? Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because they don't have the one thing that sets mutants apart from humans. The thing that makes mutants seem different enough to be reclassified. Maybe this is something worth thinking about. Thanks for watching. Please drop a like, a comment, and subscribe. It helps my channel grow. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.